Hi, and welcome to the. Hey, wait a minute, honey, please. How many times have I told you not to put my Emmy Award directly in front of the camera? I know you're proud of me for winning 3 local New York Emmy Awards for a show no one remembers on a basic cable network that went out of business. But please,
I'll remember.
I'm trying to. Here, put this with the other 2.
All right.
Thank you very much. Hi, welcome to the Dave Konig Show on Facebook Live at 6 p.m. New York Eastern Standard Time, which means it's time for the Facebook Live broadcast. Outstanding. We got a big show. We got a very big show lined up for you. All the Broadway shows had to shut down for a little while.
I know.
So we're going to help out. We're going to have the entire cast of the hit revival of West Side Story. They will be here.
Yay.
They will be here in portrait mode. On the iPhone, performing one of the big numbers from West Side Story. The entire cast will be here.
Oh my gosh.
We're keeping Broadway going. That's a big hit show.
Yes.
It's very authentic, they say.
Yeah.
I'm from the Bronx. We had gangs like that when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Very authentic, except instead of bursting in the song and dance, they'd hit you over the head with a baseball bat.
Oh no.
So very, very authentic, the West Side Story. They'll all be here, and what else we got? We got the Dave Konig Dancers.
Oh.
The Dave Konig Dancers will be here.
Finally.
Yes, we've had some technical problems because of what's going on, but they're going to all be here. They're going to do a big dance number by text. They're going to text it in. They're each of the 27 individual dancers will be texting in. Sachiko Morimoto from Japan is watching the show.
Oh.
We have viewers in Japan.
Oh my gosh.
That's amazing. Hello, Sachiko. Welcome, and yay, Japan. And Irma Zandel has got a big watch party. Jack Hoffman had a big watch party for the show.
It's the thing that all the cool kids are doing.
Anna Raffol is here.
All right.
She was in the big production of Gypsy I did.
Oh my gosh.
It's fantastic.
That was a great show.
That was a great show. So the Dave Konig Dancers will be here, and they're gonna text in their dance individually. So you'll have to check your text messages. See, what's going to happen is that each of the dancers is texting in the dance. So check your text messages during that. You'll see they'll say like lift, pirouette,
Right.
then the jazz hands, jeté. Jeté will be in there, jazz hands, and then they'll put in like a little smiley face emoticon because they're smiling because they're dancing. So that's going to be just great. And then, of course, the Not Ready for Dave Konig on Facebook Live players. Our own sketch comedy group. They're great. They're going to be here.
Will they be doing the sketches?
Well, they do the sketch. Here's the thing. See, they're young. They're young kids. They're vibrant. Everybody loves them. Came from, the UCB or the Groundlings or some such nonsense. And they do sketches. They do sketch comedy, and they do costumes. And everybody thinks they're very funny. And we had a little issue today in rehearsal with the Not Ready for Dave Konig Players sketch comedy troupe. See, I had written a sketch for the show. I'd written a sketch for the show that I wanted to do. It was like a takeoff on Who's on First, the classic, but with pandemic viruses. So it was like okay, no wait. It was like it was 2 scientists,
right.
And I was one of the scientists, right? And I had like a lab coat, and we had test tubes and beakers, because we're scientists.
Right.
And I would say, they give these pandemic viruses kind of funny names these days, kind of funny odd names, like they got the Who virus, and the What virus. And you got to watch out for this one. This one's really dangerous. The I don't know virus. So I would open the sketch like that.
I see.
And then we had one of the sketch players, one of the young guys. I think his name is Kevin or something.
Kevin.
Yeah. And he kind of smirks at me in the hallways. He's young. He's like in his 20s. And so he would say, well, what's the name of the virus? And I'd say, exactly. What's the name? So it was like a misunderstanding sketch.
Right. It's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So you see the comedy there.
I see.
So that's what I wanted to do. And then the Facebook Live suits came down.
Oh man.
Here in the studio, the suits came down, and they said, listen, we want to do a Democratic debate sketch.
Yeah.
That was their idea. And I said, no, the that's all over with. No one cares about that anymore.
Right.
And they said, no, we really want to do it because, and here's what it was. You want to know why? One of the players in the Not Ready for Dave Konig sketch comedy troupe,
Yeah.
I think it's Kevin. He does a thing. They think it's going to be the big breakout. They think he's going to really, break out, and they'll get a lot of attention. He does like a really good John Hickenlooper impression.
Oh, wow.
Remember John Hickenlooper? He was one of the
I don't.
well, when they had 27 Democrats. He was He was a governor or something. And so this guy does a big John Hickenlooper. It's like his big funny comedy bit.
Oh, wow.
It's like, oh, I'm John Hickenlooper. Anybody ask about me? Any phone calls for me? So they think that's going to be the big bit that catches on. So they keep trying to shove it in there. So the whole thing just irritates me.
That is not, well, anyway, we hope that they're going to be on the show today.
And a big celebrity guest today, we're going to have Kevin Diamond will be dropping by. Kevin Diamond, our celebrity guest.
Yeah.
He's the nephew and or cousin of Dustin Diamond, who played Screech on Saved by the Bell.
Nephew and or...
Well, we're not quite sure. He's related somehow. He's not actually in show business. He works in the luggage department at Sears in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And he tells us that he doesn't really talk much to...
Dustin Diamond.
Yeah, he's met him a couple of times at like family funerals or weddings or something.
Okay.
Doesn't know much about him. So that'll be our big celebrity guest. That'll be great. I'm really looking forward to that. And that actually happened to me, by the way.
Yeah.
The sketch thing.
Somebody changing a sketch?
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly like that. That is based on a true story. What happened was in 1989. This is when we first, just shortly after we first started dating.
That's when we met.
So this is way back. So I figure I'm like in my early or mid or late 20s, depending on how much I'm currently lying about my age. And I get hired. Okay, so I go and audition. There were two comedy channels at the time.
Right.
Two basic cable national comedy channels. There was the now defunct Ha channel, which was owned by Viacom. And then there was the Comedy Channel, which was owned by HBO. So you had the Comedy Channel, 24-hour Comedy Channel owned by HBO. Then you had the Ha Channel, 24-hour Comedy Channel owned by Viacom. And then a couple years later, in the early 90s, they merged and became Comedy Central, the first 48-hour comedy network. Because it was two 24-hour comedy networks merged.
Oh, 48 hours.
It's a math joke. Okay, so I go to audition. There was a sketch comedy show they were putting together on the Ha Network. It was called Random Acts of Variety was the name of the show, which was a pretty good name.
Yeah.
And so I go and I audition to be the host of the show. I audition for the host gig. And I do some hosting stuff, and I do some jokes, and they love me. They love me. They say, oh, my God, this is great. And then they said, do you do any funny characters? Because like Kevin. They wanted characters.
Yeah, the Hickenlooper.
Do you do like a John Hickenlooper impression? I said, I really don't. I'm sorry. I do this. I do Dave Konig. There's only one Dave Konig. This is what I do. So they didn't give me the job. They gave it to a very funny comedian who did characters, and he's great. Okay. So almost as a consolation prize, they hired me as a writer. So I was on the writing staff of this little show.
Lucky man.
All right, so it's a little startup basic cable comedy network, Ha Channel. They don't have a lot of money. They got a small staff, okay? They're shooting this show. It's a variety show with sketches, and the host would come out and do funny bits. And they're shooting it in a small studio in Harlem, and they've hired this small staff of comedy writers, myself included, and they put together a small group of young players to be the sketch players. They didn't have and then they took the entire production budget.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to compete with Saturday Night Live.
Uh-oh.
The producers said, we're going to compete with Saturday Night Live. I said, So they took the entire production budget, and they spent it all hiring the set designer from Saturday Night Live.
Oh, my.
Keith Ian Raywood, I believe his name is.
Okay.
So this is the guy who's been doing the sets for Saturday Night Live for decades. He's a very, very famous set designer. He's a very expensive set designer. So they hired him. They spent the entire budget of the show and gave it to Keith Ian Raywood to design sets for their sketch comedy show. Now, they blew the whole budget on that, so they couldn't afford for him to make a lot of sets.
Right.
So they'd have him make one set per show, and then they'd call in the writers and say, okay, we got this one set. Can you guys write like 6 sketches that would take place in the same place in this? And then the sets weren't even that good. They were like, they couldn't afford like great sets, so the sets would be like a waiting room. Can you write 6 sketches that take place in a waiting room? We got a room and there's a chair. So that would be it. So one time he built a locker room sketch. Gee, I hope this anecdote is interesting to you because it's long. I had no idea when I started how long this anecdote was. So they built a locker room sketch, right? A locker room set. And they asked us all to write sketches.
That would take place
In
a locker room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so there were two very funny, talented girls in the sketch comedy troupe, and no one ever wrote sketches for them because that's a comedy thing. Because it was all guys on the staff,
Right.
and so the girls never had anything to do. So I decided, I was going to write a sketch in a locker room for the ladies. Okay.
Very nice.
Could be nice, could be perverted. Depends on how you look at it.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, all right. So, do you remember how popular, this was 1990-ish, do you remember how popular synchronized swimming was in the Olympics? Synchronized swimming.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Right, it's still big.
Please say yes. If you say no, the show's
No,
over.
it's still
Okay.
big, yeah.
Synchronized swimming. So I wrote a synchronized swimming sketch for the two gals, right? And here was the sketch. The sketch was they're a synchronized swimming team. They've just won the big match. They're in the locker room. And one of them turns to the other and says, and wants to break up the act and go solo.
Oh.
She wants to go solo. She's a synchronized swimmer. They're a team. She wants to go solo. That was the conflict.
Okay, that's complicated and funny.
Exactly. That's what I'm going for. And we only have 15 minutes. Just get to the part where you pretend to laugh. Hey. So, you're making me nervous here. I'm bombing with my own wife. What else is new? Okay. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
So the synchronized, so it's two women synchronized swimmers. They're a team, and then they want to break up the act. So then they get into an argument, and then they get into a physical fight, right? Slapstick physical fight, and of course I'd written it so the fight was synchronized because they're synchronized swimmers.
That's very clever.
It was so clever. I'm a genius. I'm brilliant. So I take it to the director of the show, and he loves it. He goes, "Oh my God, this is the greatest thing I ever read. This is fantastic." And then he shows it to the girls, and they go, "Oh my God, Dave, you wrote us this brilliant sketch." Yeah, and I said, "Dave, you're welcome. Please, with my blessings, make America laugh."
Yeah.
And then the producers get the sketch. Now, there was a guy in the cast. He was talented, but there was a young guy in the cast, and my hand to God, I'm not making this. He had a character he did. And it was a hunchback. He did a hunchback character.
Okay.
He did like Quasimodo.
Okay.
That was it.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
Yeah.
And so they thought, these geniuses who spent the entire budget hiring the set designer from Saturday Night Live so he could create a locker room, they thought that this guy was going to be the breakout star and take them all to stardom.
With one character?
And with his hunchback character.
Yeah.
So the producer comes to me and says, "Hey, Dave, you know that synchronized swimmer sketch? What we're going to do is we're going to take one of the girls out and put in the hunchback guy."
Man.
And they did. And it stunk. It was terrible.
Wow.
It was
I
terrible.
wonder if tape exists of that.
Not all these anecdotes have to have a big finish. You know that, right? Sometimes it's just the journey. All right, so moving on. What else do we have? We have, by the way, you started this by encouraging me.
I don't know what I was thinking.
And you started a national trend. Did you know that?
No.
Susan Konig, my lovely wife and co-host, said to me, I said, "What am I going to do during the global pandemic? I got nothing to do." She said, "Do a show on Facebook." I said, "I'm not going to do that. I don't want to, right?
Right.
This is why you're, who needs that aggravation?" But you were right.
Yeah.
And so we're doing this. This is what occupies my mind every day. And you would think if I was thinking about this show all day long, it would be better than it is now. So, you would think. So, you know who's doing shows on Facebook Live now?
Who?
Ricky Gervais is going to do. Conan O'Brien.
Oh, yeah, Irma was telling me.
That's right, but you started it all.
Okay, good.
Irma says, "Can we see?" Here, the people are clamoring to see you. Come here, honey. They want to see. They want to make sure you're actually still alive. Hello, it's Susan Konig on the show.
Here I am.
We didn't rehearse this part.
No.
Okay. All right. Susan is the breakout star of the show, says Elliot Finkel, and he's right.
Oh yeah. So and so many people are here. Elliot and Irma and
It's like
Maria Cutiquette.
It's like Romper Room.
Yeah.
I see Heather Thornton. I see Frank Vignola. I see Elliot Finkel. It's like Romper Room around here.
Yeah.
Tiffany. By the way, Tiffany Bukowski. Just let me know offline. Did Norman ever get that paperwork thing straightened out?
All right. This is not the time.
Okay, this is not the time for that. But I do want to know, actually. I really... Okay, so people are watching this. Very nice. We got watch parties now.
I know, and actually, time flies because we're already up to 15 minutes.
You're kidding me.
Yeah,
That was 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Wow, did you guys get gypped today? Just very quickly, some things you can do during the global pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone's stuck in their houses. Museums now are having virtual tours online.
Nice, yeah.
You can go online, have a virtual tour of a museum, and get some culture. Last museum we went to was in Washington, D.C., honey. Remember this? We went to the Air and Space Museum.
I do remember that.
What a ripoff. It was so cluttered up with airplanes, you couldn't see the air in space.
Yeah, that was a ripoff.
Do you remember that? Some of your 12-step programs now are having meetings online.
Right.
Did you like virtual AA meetings online? So that's good news.
Yeah.
I'm happy about that. Well, I joined Obsessive Compulsives Anonymous, which is kind of like a 12-step program,
Right.
except it has 311 steps. Oh, they're not all different. It's just the same step repeated over and over again.
That's right.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And finally, this is a good time to catch up on your documentaries on television and get some education, learn some things. I watched a wonderful documentary the other night. It was interesting. You'd think there's, at this point, World War II, you know everything. It's a documentary about the theory that perhaps that Adolf Hitler might have been gay. Did you know this?
No.
Yeah, the documentary was called The Triumph of the Will and Grace.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
See, you get culture and comedy here. You get a Leni Riefenstahl reference coming at you. All right, apparently Kevin Diamond, the nephew and or cousin of Screech, Dustin Diamond, is quarantined, so he couldn't make the show tonight. So we'll try and book him again some other time.
Okay.
And tune in next week. Oh, we didn't plug the books.
I know, but you're running out of time.
Buy Susan's book. Now, by the way, people keep telling me, "Oh, it's backwards. There's a mirror image." I don't know. I don't know how this works. I'm not a computer technician. Here, hand me your books. I don't know how Facebook works. Talk to Mark Zuckerberg, and if you have a problem with the iPhone, talk to Bill Gates or whoever's in charge of that. I don't know how this works. I'm just here. Buy my book, Good Luck, Mr. Gorski, on Amazon. You're going to like that. Buy.
Terrific.
I wear the maternity pants in this family. I know it's a mirror image. Doesn't matter. You go on Amazon and buy it anyway. Why Animals Sleep So Close to the Road and Other Lies I Tell My Children. If you don't want to see that mirror image, then buy the book and you'll have it in your hand and it'll be the proper way. And Teenagers and Toddlers Are Trying to Kill Me, all by Susan Konig. These are great books. And we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow when our special guest will be Randy the Human Mosquito.
Oh, my.
That's going to be great.
Say hi to Vianne Cox.
Oh, hi, Vianne Cox. What a talent. What a talent. I've had a crush on you for decades. What a talent Vianne Cox is. She's one of our greatest comic actresses. All right, good night, everybody. Tune in tomorrow. Oh, and tell your friends. Tell your friends. Tell your friends to tune in every night, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on the Facebook Live Television Network with Dave Konig and my lovely bride, Susan Konig.
Okay, good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.